In conversation with Barbara Miller. Barbara is a wife and mother of two adorable children, a boy and a girl, who love to keep her on her toes. A devout followers of Christ, her first published work was a Christian devotional dedicated to helping the parents of young children titled How to Love Your Preschooler. She recently published a Fox fictional work, a gold rush adventure inspired by a true story called The Call of God. In her free time, she loves to explore new places with her children and go on long hikes and bike rides. Along with being a Cub Scout leader for the last 2 years, she also volunteers her time at church teaching preschool Sunday school. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my utmost pleasure and joy to have on the show today, Barbara Miller. How are you doing, Barbara?
Doing really well, thank you. It's a good
Absolutely.
day.
Absolutely. It's lovely actually to have you on the show today. But amazing to see your smiling face.
Same here. It's completely different when you're communicating over email than in person.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's great we're here finally. Yeah, thank you. So, Barbara, you have good numbers of beautiful works out there to your credit, but I would like us to start a conversation today with your novel, The Call of God. Could you tell us how this book came about? What inspired you to write The Call of God?
Sure. So for over 20 years, I've been a genealogist, which means
Mm.
that I love to research my family history and
Oh,
find out more about, well, I've been doing my husband's research. So we've been married 15 years this year. So for the last 15 years, I've been doing his family research.
wow.
And The Call of Gold is a book I've been wanting to write for years based on his two times great grandfather. And stories have been passed down how he left Ohio, went to California to the gold rush, and had lots of success, almost died on the way, and then came back.
Mm, wow.
So we don't know exactly what he went through, but this is inspired through what we know of his journey and a bunch of other research that I've done into the genre
Mm,
and what's happened to other people who've made similar journeys. And so this is a
absolutely.
fictional story based on my husband's two times great grandfather's story.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite beautiful to know, really. I love the sound of it. That's such an
And
amazing way to even start a story, really.
yeah, I love history, but what I love is bringing it to life. Like there's so
Mm,
much historical fiction out there, and you're like, geez, is that even real? Like, did that actually happen? Because
yeah,
sometimes it can be very dumbed down.
yeah,
In my work, I like to make it as real as possible. I'm not going to shy away from the bad things that happen or the good things that happen.
absolutely. That's
And like
great.
this, yeah, in this journey, there's a big part of it that's his spiritual journey and how he builds his relationship with God. Because
Mm,
in my husband's two times great grandfather's obituary, it talked about how in the last 2 weeks of his life, he was in constant communication with God. And I'm like,
wow.
nobody's just, oh, I'm dying. I'm going to talk to God. You have to build that relationship. So
Mm,
this is my imagining of how his relationship with God comes about through the hardships of his journey.
mm. Well, that's great, actually. I love the fact that, I love you mentioning and talking about that. And now, just in case of readers who haven't read the book yet, and of course,
Mhm.
without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what we'd expect in terms of themes picking up the call of gold?
Okay, yeah. So above all, it's an adventure story. It's a travel story and a
Yeah.
personal growth story. So he actually takes first trains and then he travels from Ohio over the Oregon Trail, basically, through all the different states, if you're very familiar at all with American history. And he goes over the
Mm,
Oregon Trail to California. And from there, he goes to different gold rush towns and he has success. I'm not going to, tell everything, just giving a little brief overview. But and then he comes home on the Isthmus of Panama. So that means he
Mm.
went down through South America. They didn't have the Panama Canal yet, so he had to go over on a mule pack train. And on the way, he runs into real life situations, whether
Mm.
he comes close to death at one point.
Wow.
He comes close to death a couple of times actually. He runs into, things like mining riots, and a lot of different, like, real nitty-gritty situations that happen,
Mm.
whether it's natural disasters or humans just being humans and not very thoughtful of others,
Wow.
to put it, you know, in a nice
Yeah.
way. Yeah,
That's amazing. And if you have a copy there with you, do you have a copy there that you can just show
I
to the
do.
camera? Just
So
wow,
please
beautiful even. Would you like
ignore
to talk about the
the
cover?
yeah, so I wanted to not just gear, there's a lot of historical fiction that has people on it, and it's kind of more geared towards women.
Mm.
But my book, I tried very hard to make sure that it was geared towards both sexes. The main character was
Wow.
actually a man, or, basically you run mostly into men. It's the gold rush, there weren't all that many women there. So
Mm.
I wanted to keep a cover that was very like it's a gold nugget. It's telling you right off the bat what this book is about,
Yeah.
is the search for gold. And I wanted to keep it simple. I don't like a lot of, like, fancy things where you have to stare at the cover for 5 minutes trying to figure out what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And please ignore the pen marks. My daughter got to it.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
I noticed it maybe because I knew better. Yeah, I ran out of author copies, so yeah,
Oh,
my 4-year-old, she got her hands on it.
yeah, she added more crafts to the cover. Makes it beautiful. She felt that the designer did not add, the designer should have added something here, so she felt she can just do it and makes it looks more beautiful.
Definitely. She's
Yeah,
quite the artist.
absolutely. Yeah, now you also have another book out there in the name of How to Love Your Preschooler. Would you like to tell
Yes.
us a bit about that too?
Sure. So this is How to Love Your Preschooler, and yes, the cover is my husband and my daughter. Um,
Oh,
yeah, so I took my own picture for that cover. Um, so I started, oh geez, so this came out in December of 2022. So in 2022, I was leading a Bible study. I was leading other parents, other moms of young children. So we were all moms of preschoolers. And I was leading them in Bible studies, and God talked to me one day, and He threw out at me 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7, which is love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy. And what I did with that is I did some Bible devotionals for each line. Love is patient, love is kind.
wow.
And my book talks about, and it gives real life examples out of my own life. I don't shy away with my successes and my failures, and I give
Hmm.
examples. um, how do you be patient with your children? How do you be kind to your children? How do you not envy your children? Because
Wow.
love does not boast. Love does not fear. Love fears no evil. There's so many different aspects on how to love somebody, but this is
Absolutely.
specifically to your preschoolers. There are so many books out there that are like, you should do A, B, C, and D. I can tell you right now, as the mom of two, most of those books, you might be able to use one or two things out of it, but each kid is different. You
Yeah.
can't just say that there's only one way to
Do
raise your
it.
child
Hmm.
correctly. Everybody has a different opinion. So what this
Absolutely.
book is, it's not telling you, okay, you have to do A, B, and C. This is more about your mindset towards your
Yeah.
children. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so it's like, how do you for example, being patient. I use one of the examples, like your kids learning to tie their shoes and getting ready to go out the door. It's
Mm,
so hard when they're first learning. You have to be out the door in 5 minutes, but they're taking 20 minutes because they want to do everything themselves. They don't want
themselves.
any help.
Uh,
So, how can you calm yourself down? How can you be patient yourself with your kids? How can you look at them and be like, is this something that, is this a problem? Like,
mm,
can I slow down myself in order to help
yeah,
my kids grow? you
yeah.
know so yeah, so this book is more about yourself, like how to change your mindset to love your children the way
That's
God intended
great.
you to love them. Yeah.
That's actually amazing, really. And I love your take on this. And, the concept, the topic, and the subject of this particular How to Love Your Preschooler is one that I think is very important, really. Especially, yeah, it's very important. And I love all you've said about it. It's very true. And we really need it today. Yeah. So thank you for mentioning. I
Yeah.
love the sound of it.
Yeah, and one other thing I would say about it is also it's written for busy parents, not just moms, dads too. There's all sorts out there. Um, but it's written for busy lives and busy parents. So
Yeah.
each devotional it's not meant to be, even though it's a small book, it's not huge.
Mm,
Um, but it's not meant to be read all in one go. It's like it's meant to be read one topic at a time, to think over, pray over, and try to implement before going to the next topic.
that's
Because I
great.
don't have time to sit down and read a book. Or I mean, I do now that my kids are older, but when they were preschoolers,
Yeah.
my daughter's on the tail end of it, and only now do I have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So it's definitely meant to be read in small chunks, and that's how it's written, is, you
Yeah.
know, so
That's
that you actually have
amazing.
the time to, yeah.
Absolutely. I love your take on this, really, Barbara. It sounds quite beautiful to me. And now let's talk about your inspirations and ideas. You've written a novel, and here you have a preschooler out there. I've always been fascinated about all authors, especially novelists like yourself, craft long sentences and bring words together in a way that you have a paragraph making a chapter and chapter making one, two, three. A very huge, amazing novel published eventually. And sometimes this leaves me thinking about how exactly did they got the idea to write this book? Where did these words come from? How did they put these words together? I mean, it's just so surprising to me, really. And now, as far as writing is concerned, I would love to ask you too, how do you get your inspirations and ideas? Where did they come from?
With the novel, it's from my family history or my husband's family history. Like the book I'm writing now is my family history.
Yeah.
Um, I love history. I love reading, anything about history, really, depending on, like, right now I'm working on World War II, but the gold rush, what I love about writing is, so I'm inspired by my family, but I'm also wanting to write about the things that aren't widely known.
Mm,
I like writing about the things that you can't just find in any book you pick up, if that
yeah.
makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like, yeah. And for me, it also kind of helps with historical fiction to like, it helps me organize because it has a timeline. There's so many books that are like, I used to read fantasy and sometimes they were a little jumbled because there's no
Mm,
structure to it. But history has structure, history has a timeline, and it makes it a little easier to write it. But it's
absolutely.
also a lot of research. I mean, I have stacks of printed pages of research before I even
Yeah.
start reading writing because
Yeah.
I want to be realistic in my writing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And with the devotional, I'm inspired by God,
Mm,
but he gives me the theme to talk about. But it's my
yeah.
children, it's my family. Yeah, even in my historical fiction, like I think my main character is kind of a mix between my husband and I. I used elements,
Wow.
from people I know to make this a realistic person. It's not just some person with no depth that you just, wrote down in 10 minutes. I spent a year writing that book.
Oh,
So
goodness.
I use inspiration from friends, family, but mostly family.
Mm,
Yeah, and
yeah. I
history.
see, I love your answers to these questions, really. And I can go on and on. They really made for an interesting discussion. Yeah. I do love your take. I do love your response to them. They're quite educative and very helpful. So thank you for mentioning.
You're welcome.
Yeah, now Barbara, as someone who has written in the genre of children's literature and also a full-length novel, I would love to
Mhm.
ask you, which of this particular genre is a favorite? Is there one that you have a fun time writing over another? Would you like to talk about that?
I love both genres. Otherwise, I never would have published. But I would have to say, like at the moment, I think it depends on which one I'm writing, which my favorite. I would say at the moment, right now. Oh, Morgan, hi, here. Sorry, just one second.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, hi. Here you go. Want to say hi? No. No? Okay. What about
Hello.
hello?
Hello.
The moment I would say historical fiction was my favorite.
Yeah.
Um, just because it's bringing me so much closer to my family. And like right now, I'm actually writing about my side of the family, so it's really
Mm.
close and near and dear to my heart.
Wow.
And I love history. I just love learning the different things that you never hear about in the classroom, that you don't see about in the movies. In the
Mm.
movies are always, like the big things, the most important things, but they don't have the
Yeah.
backgrounds. I love researching both sides of both sides of the issue.
Interesting.
Um, yeah. And when I'm writing my devotional, then, I'm totally into, the Bible. And it just depends on what I'm writing at the moment, because I think God's word is the most important word ever out there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I also find it much more difficult to write than a fictional novel.
Mm.
I I find I want to make sure that I don't misrepresent God and,
Yeah.
the passages I use and the words I use. So I find it actually much more difficult
Yeah.
to write the devotionals. So yeah, I would have to say, like, while I love both genres.
I
But
do
I
love
also tie God into my historical fiction, so it's not like he's completely left out.
absolutely. That's great, really. I love your take on this, and I love all you've said. Your answers too really made for an interesting discussion. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And now, apart from the books we've mentioned so far, do you have any other
Mhm.
works you've authored or say currently working on?
You have this wasn't this isn't yeah, this isn't for publishing, like it's not for others. But what I do with my family history is I write books on the actual family history and the research so that
Mm.
other people in my family can, um, you know, so I can share what I've learned about our family.
Yeah.
Um, and right now I'm actually working on a World War II historical fiction that is based on my great grandmother. My
Wow.
family's German. So we were on, the German side of the family, on, my mom's side.
Mm.
And they were farmers, and my great grandmother ended up having to escape the Russian advancement when they came in. And
Wow.
there was a lot of trauma and things that she went through. So
Oh.
I'm exploring the average German family in World War II. They weren't all fanatic, Nazis, as they're painted at, and different aspects of history that,
Yeah.
like, for example, um, the Russian advancement, for example. There are
Mm.
a lot of things that went on in there that were real atrocities aren't talked about. They're finally being talked about the last 10 years, maybe,
Mm.
and things
Wow.
that my family went through. And it's really connecting me to history.
Mm.
And
That's
I'm really
great.
enjoying writing it. Yeah.
That's amazing, really. And I love the fact that you're writing a book in this particular genre. Hopefully, when that is up, would love to have you back on the show to talk about it. That would be fun, really.
Yeah, I would love to. Next year.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, could you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? Are there any challenges you've encountered in the process of writing your books and also ever since it got published?
Yeah. So I'm self-published. I had quite a few offers for my devotional, but I can't afford $5,000 to, give to somebody who
Mm,
can't guarantee that anything's going to sell. Um, so it's interesting. Like, I think the main challenge that I had were like self-editing and finding editors because I have two young kids. I don't have money to just, go out the window. Maybe once, my books are successful, then I'll be able to, you know, pay somebody else to do all the work.
yeah.
And really writing it is the easy part. Getting
Yeah,
it ready for publishing when you don't have, when you're having to do it yourself is the big challenge.
absolutely.
Um, and also finding the right place to publish it. I started with Lulu, which is another self-publishing, and they took too long. They took too long. I tried for over a year using this publisher, and I finally actually switched to Amazon for publishing, which
Mm,
is so much easier.
wow.
Um, but yeah, so the challenges are, getting your book ready yourself because you can't, afford to pay somebody else. And I think that's a lot of people shy away from actually writing books because they're so intimidated by that.
Yeah.
Um, and marketing. Marketing, nobody's going to buy your book if they don't know about it. So
Yeah, that's true.
eventually you have to pay money in order to,
Yeah.
get your book out there. But yeah, so finding that balance between like spending a lot of money you don't have and just trying to chunk it out and be patient, and try to
Mm,
grow your brand is,
yeah.
let's say, the biggest hurdle. Writing's easy part. It's
Yeah.
not that it's easy, it's not easy, but that's the easiest part of self-publishing.
Absolutely. Yeah. We all know that, writing a book, even though it's a bit challenging, it's fun as well. Yeah, but the
Mhm.
actual work lies in the marketing of it. Yeah, and that's actually where the sources of a book lies in. The ability of it to be out there for people to be able to know that there's a work like this exists out there.
Mhm.
The sources of every business, even other business aside writing, is marketing. Getting out there, how many customers you get to have, is what keeps the business or a company growing and going as
Exactly.
well, moving, etc. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite applicable to every aspect of life, and especially to the indie world. It's quite
It,
challenging.
it is. Everybody's trying to get their work out there, and you have so
Yeah,
many voices. We're not all Stephen King or, Anne Rice. So
absolutely.
it's like we can't just use
Yeah,
our name to get
yeah,
people.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning. And now, is there anything that you would love to share with the viewers about your books that we did not mention in this interview and you'd love the viewers to know?
I think the biggest thing I would say is like just don't give up, don't give up on writing, don't give up on, publishing, don't give up on
Mm,
life really in general.
yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I've had to fight every step in my life, whether
Wow.
it's getting my kids the help they needed. And I do mention this a little bit in my devotional, whether it's getting the book written, just never give up. Don't give up on your dreams
Yeah,
and don't put it off until too late. Like I've
absolutely.
wanted to be a writer until since I was a little girl, but I didn't start until now.
Mm,
I've wasted so many years. Nothing
yeah.
were wasted, but like, I think that's
Yeah.
what I would say. Don't
Thank you
put off
so
what you
much. Yeah.
want to get done.
Absolutely. Thank you for your advice, and I'm hoping that viewers would love to utilize it. Now, Barbara, just in case we have some people who are currently watching this interview and would love to get a
Mhm.
copy of your books, on what platform are they available on for purchase?
Amazon would be the easiest. I mean, it's in Barnes and Nobles and all that, but everything is definitely available on Amazon.
That's great. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Barbara Miller's books directly on Amazon and also on other platforms. So thank you so much, Barbara, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's awesome having this conversation with you.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. It's really exciting, really. This was fun.
Yeah, same here. So nice meeting you. Thank you.
Yeah.